Okay. Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Tyler Jones, and we are recording on a Thursday early evening, less than 24 hours after the Hawks clinched a trip to Las Vegas. Uh, it was Trey, it was Madison Square Garden. The Knicks changed, but Trey doesn't. He just keeps winning there when it matters most. But he had a lot of help. What'd you think about that game, Tyler? Where do you want to start?
Um, we got I guess like for the game purposes, you got to start with the defense. And I really thought uh that was probably the best defensive game I've seen Jalen Johnson play, like as an individual. Like he's been so it's interesting. I actually think he's been pretty good defensively this season, but uh understanding that his workload now is that he's had to up his usage on the team. He's basically acting as a backup point guard sometimes even, and like he has more on his plate, and I feel like he's managed himself pretty well on that the floor without giving up too much. But I thought last night he was just locked in and was just kind of just a big physical presence that really was like the secondary, like that secondary help defender that was really causing problems, primarily for Jalen Brunson whenever he could even get by Dyson Daniels. I mean, Dyson Daniels, like, I mean, he's just incredible. Individual defense aside, his individual defense aside, though, because he like the key part was that Dyson's just able to, Hawks are just able to play Jalen Brunson straight up and not worry about any repercussions about Dyson getting beat because Jalen couldn't beat him. Like Brunson just could not get to his spots. He was uncomfortable basically the entire night, but Dyson really turned it up on him to start that third quarter where he was like, I'm not even gonna let you dribble anymore. You're not getting to your spots. The screen comes, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna get screened here. Like you, so and just like the connectiveness of this Hawks defensively when they're on point has been fairly impressive throughout this 8 game run. The Nuggets game notwithstanding. Uh, but like I mean, the defense kind of carried them home, and it was good in the first half, but it was incredible in that second.
Yeah, like all season long, Jalen's been a pretty good defender, but it's like he'll have 8 good plays and 2 terrible ones.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, that still looks pretty good in the aggregate, but it's still a little bit disappointing. But the breakdowns weren't there last night. And the Hawks missed him a lot against Denver
oh,
because they missed him defensively. Like they missed him on offense, but they really missed him defensively because that's a game where you've got to guard Jokic with Capela 14 feet from the basket when he's got his back to the basket, and there's just no help at the rim because you've got to use Capela to guard essentially the primary ball handler, and that leaves you weak on the back line, and they just had no idea what to do. They tried Nance on Jokic in the second half with a
a
Kongwu
Congo.
as kind of a roaming. He started the second half with a Kongwu as sort of a roaming freelance rim protector, and it just they never found an answer. But against the Knicks, you know, I thought the defense was really good for 48 minutes, except in the first half when the bench came in. I thought there were a few lapses, but then that cleaned up
Yeah.
in the second half.
Yeah, I can see that, especially with like Bogey and Congo's first stint was kind of they were both having a little rough go of it, but
Yeah.
they I mean Okongwu was pretty really good that second half. Thought he was a big reason why the Hawks kind of the offense started kicking when he was in the game and like uh I mean his passing, I know the assists aren't like up there, but like his passing has kind of been another outlet for this Hawks team on offense. Just to keep the ball flowing, keep the ball moving, and getting good shots in possession. Uh, but it's hard to point to anybody. I thought everybody did their job. Everybody played reasonably well. What to me, what's exciting about this Hawks team is that offensively, they so obviously. can be better than what they have been, and they leave so many points on the board just by either rushing possessions or rushing like they see the play, but the pass isn't there. We talked. I think you tweeted out or posted on Blue Sky that or somebody did that. Is Jalen like a bad lob thrower? Somebody did,
A bad.
and I was
Oh, yeah, I've said it just seems like there's like in the last month that he's had like maybe 10 lob passes that were pretty terrible.
yeah, and it feels like when he's stationary, he's pretty good at it,
Yeah.
but when he's moving, it's like the ball. You just don't know where the ball is going to go because I mean that one lob to Congo, it's like that was 2 points on the board that he just gave, to the Knicks, and it's like what? Why'd you even? It's like why'd you rush that? Like there was no pressure on, and that's where the next evolution of Jalen's game is like to take his time because he's just so much a better athlete than the majority of players he's going against. Like he can always go last. Like that's where, and when he's at his best, he's going like he's slowing down. He's going last. You saw it a couple times with his slow Euro steps where if he has a smaller defender, before he would try to rush in there, or maybe he'd go for the hard dribble to a fadeaway. Now it's like, all right, this guy's smaller than me. If I protect the ball and I do a strong powered, like, a strong Euro, he's not going to be able to do anything. He's just going to bounce right off me. I'm going to get it easy, kind of 4 foot layup, more or less, like at the rim. And there's nothing anybody can do about it because the thing that was pretty clear is when Carl Towns isn't the best rim protector, it's kind of his weakest skill. But when he's out the game, like the Knicks are aggressively small. And if Towns isn't in the paint, they have no secondary rim protection, no ability to jump really. And so like the Hawks were really like just hammering them in the third and fourth quarter, just using Capela and Okongwu to pull Cat out of the lane, and then either through Trae Young's dribble penetration or second and third playmaking, they're getting shots at the rim without any real rim protectors, and they're just getting like layups and dunks like the entire second half. And like meanwhile, it's interesting. Glenn, he's not here with us today, but hopefully he'll be on the next time. He posted that the Hawks can't let go of the rope when the second trade threw that lob to DeAndre Hunter and he skipped instead of getting back on defense. And the Knicks, of course, got an easy layup, 3-point play, actually, to cut the lead to 11. Timeout was called. Like Glenn's like, hey, they can't let go of the rope. I know they're in a good mood, they're playing well, but like, it's like what there was a good like 4 minutes or so left in the game. But to me, after that, like the Knicks were the team that let go of the rope. Like they stopped competing on defense at all. Like it went from being easy for the Hawks to like Trae could just run the clock down until 5 seconds and then get a shot at the rim every possession. And then on the other end, the Hawks were just like, okay, we're just not going to let you guys shoot threes. And here's the layups because like this game's over. And like the Knicks kind of just fed into it. It was really weird how, like to me, it felt like the Knicks gave up the game sooner than they needed to, but maybe they just felt the futility of the matchup. Like I really do think like they were really frustrated how much bigger the Hawks were than they were, and like how they were struggling to compete on rebounds and like other possession items.
Yeah, the rebounding really the last few minutes made a difference. It was it was like a football game where you just if you can't stop the run and you're playing from behind and you can't stop the run, they just run
They're
out the
just
clock. The Hawks just ran out the clock. They just used every 24-second clock, got a reasonable shot, which I think they missed most of them. And then they were
they
getting
did.
offensive rebounds and taking another 14 seconds. And then when the Knicks got the ball, they just played defense. And it was like, it was just like they weren't going to be able to score enough points to come back.
Yeah. So it like I mean from basically from that the start of the third quarter on, like the Hawks were just the way superior basketball team. So
I,
like it
I
was a
thought
great
it was
show.
interesting, and this is kind of what I wrote about today for Hawks.com. Like, for years and years, Trey has, been a drop defense killer. Like, you want to drop your big deep in the paint. I'm not going to have any problem with that. I'll take the passes when they're there, and if they're not, I'm going to find a floater. I'm going to take shots that, like with the floater, for example, like even it's not necessarily the highest percentage shot, but if that center that's dropped is trying to guard two players at once with somebody from behind, like you still got a good chance at an offensive rebound with Capela when you take that floater. And the first half, Trey actually looked kind of awkward in those. Like he was getting stuck. He was trying to pass, and it's like, Trey, you got to shoot that.
Hmm.
And then in the second half, he came out shooting, and then just he didn't have a turnover in the second half. Like he just made every right decision running the offense. And I'm intrigued because you look at the Eastern Conference and you specifically just look at the game they just played and the game that they have in front of them. Trey's Trey's had a rough season offensively just because they've asked him to do so much. And in addition, they've asked him to do a lot in situations where he really can't do a whole lot but get off the ball. I don't think the Bucks can really play him that way if they're playing Lopez. You
Yeah.
could do this again against the Bucks, and they're going to drop Lopez, and Lopez is going to be a way better rim protector than Cat is. But he's still going to have this same kind of at least flow with the offense where he's going to get to see the same thing over and over again and get into a rhythm, I think.
Yeah, and he's also going to go up against a smaller defender. Mikal, I thought Mikal Bridges was struggling, but he at least has the length in that first half to bother Trey on some of these decisions. Whereas in the second, Trey just stopped caring and kind of really started really hunting, hunting his shot more. And I think Trey talked about how, you know, the Knicks were playing him to pass because they were, and it was. I know I was frustrated in the first half. I'm like, Trey, why are we jumping in the air and then looking to throw the pass behind you? Like the floater's right there. I understand the floater hasn't been there for him this season, but that's his bread and butter on offense, really. Think about it. And he can't just abandon it just because he's been slumping slumping through it. And the Bucks are, a good matchup for him in particular, just because their backside defense, while Lopez is a great rim protector, Trey doesn't attack the rim he's not a Jalen Johnson, he's not a Giannis, like he's not attacking the front of the rim. He's getting to that mid range area where he's forcing Lopez up the floor to make a decision. And then combined with the Bucks perimeter defenders aren't that impressive. They're not. They don't have the timing, the foot speed, the physicality needed to really bother Trey to me. And so, like, he should play. He should have another good game just based on the matchup.
Yeah, is there anything about the Bucks that you find particularly unnerving? Is there something that if they do that one thing that is going to lead to a Milwaukee victory if it happens?
Chris Middleton is probably the biggest X factor because he didn't play the last time, and when the Hawks and Bucks play, if he's just a different element, and he forces the Hawks to play the Bucks more fair, if that makes sense. Can't just cheat off of Middleton's man. You got to stay on Chris Middleton. You gotta respect Chris Middleton as a playmaker, as a do everything basketball player. That's just something you got to worry about. And you add that to Dame's ability above the break, like that's going to be a big task for whoever's going to be guarding him. Uh, you know, Next game. We've seen Middleton, in that I just remember in that 2021 playoff series where the Hawks had no answer for Chris Middleton. Like they had answers for Giannis, like Capella, Okongwu, Jalen Johnson. Are they going to stop Giannis? No, but they're big, physical, athletic. They keep Giannis in front of him. They usually don't foul, but last time they played, the referee just decided that contact wasn't allowed. So hopefully we don't have that in Vegas. But like Giannis, he's a problem, but you kind of know how to deal with that. Chris Middleton, just because of his size, shooting, and passing. Like he's a bigger, like I think, and if depending on how much he plays, he's probably still on a minutes limit. But like, he's probably the real like guy they gotta find an answer for because it can't be Dyson. You're gonna have him on Dame the full game, and so it's like okay, Reese Shea, DeAndre Hunter, and maybe even Bogey. Like those guys are gonna have to step up defensively, and kind of be solid so they're not getting hurt in Middleton actions.
So if I'm going to assume that, the Bucks are going to keep, uh, somebody that they trust as a perimeter defender on Trey for a lot of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that they get Lillard, Giannis, Lopez, and Middleton on the floor at the same time. Like, how do you want those defensive assignments to be chopped up among the Hawks defenders? I
It's
mean, it
interesting.
seems like
So the
Lillard is
last,
is going to be Daniels, correct?
yeah,
Or no?
yeah, Lillard on Dice. The last time they played, it was interesting because usually the Hawks just put Capela on Giannis, but they actually put Jalen, and like Jalen actually does a pretty good job
Hmm.
on Giannis. But he did get in foul trouble the
Right.
last time these teams played. So do they want to switch it up because Jalen is just the more important player, even though he can do it? Do they just want to put Capella on Giannis full time there, have Jalen on Brook Lopez, um, and then Reese Shea has to just guard Middleton. So that's going to be Reese Shea's been pretty good defensively, I think overall, and like he had another good defensive game against the Knicks,
Yeah.
but Chris Middleton, it would be like he had the one game I remember him struggling mightily defensively was against the Sacramento Kings when he had to
That's what I
guard
was
DeMar
gonna
DeRozan.
say.
Yeah, yeah, I know
Because
you're gonna.
DeRozan, they're kind of similar players. Like you got to be strong. You got to deal with this player that's playing from, the mid post with his back to the basket. Like that's something that's
Yeah,
not really his bread and
that
butter
and
yet.
the thing is though with Middleton is he's not the high wire act that DeMar DeRozan like. DeMar has so many tricks where Middleton's more grounded, where it's like it's fundamentals, but like it's high level, like it's high level play. I'm not. They're different players, and
Right.
I think Reese Shea should be okay just because DeRozan's such a unique basketball player. I think is what more what I'm trying to get towards. But it is going to be a challenge for Reese Shea at least to start the game. The good thing is you do have DeAndre Hunter um, um, backing him up. So like if Reese Shea is struggling, we could see him play shorter minutes and like try to match Middleton with DeAndre after the first stint. So uh, that's going to be, that I think that's going to be the biggest key for the Hawks if the Hawks going to win because I do think offensively they should be okay to score against this Bucks team. They're not they're not that they're okay defensively, but like this, you know, if you can force Brook Lopez off the floor, which I think Trey is going to be able to do, that's going to be a massive win for the rest of the Hawks. Where it's like Brook Lopez is now off the floor, now Jalen, Dyson, Reese Shea, even DeAndre Hunter and Bogdanovich, like everybody knows attacking the rim is back on the table for us, not just Trey Young doing 1-5 or 1-4 pick and rolls.
Yeah. And just to backtrack one step, it's not like, I mean, you never know when the corner is going to get turned. But to this point in the season, Chris Middleton hasn't really been Chris Middleton yet. But you never know when, it's this could be his game, just like it took Bogdanovich a week when he came back from injury. It's like the first week, wasn't great. But the fourth game, the fifth game, that's when he starts to get his rhythm. So this Middleton hasn't done it yet, but it's probably coming soon, and the Hawks do need to be ready just in case.
Yeah, but with the recent form, like as long as everybody's healthy, and I expect that everybody would play. I think I think the Hawks have a good chance of winning. I don't know what the betting it was. Um, I don't know what the betting market says or anything like that, but I would I would guess like the Hawks would have a decent chance of pulling it out and it wouldn't be, an upset. I was actually confused that, you know, everybody was going with the Knicks just
That was
because
weird. Is that just because they were expecting New York
now
people to bet? Like, why were they the favorite? Or I
like
didn't know. I didn't understand.
I don't usually get into the gamble, but they were favored by like 8 points. And I think it was just purely based on the team's point differential on the season. But like the Hawks have been playing way better since everybody got healthy. And like the Knicks are like to me, I just thought Carl Towns is your best rim protector and like your only really good defensive rebounder. Like I've seen Carl Towns as the team's best rim protector and only good rebounder. Like the Hawks have eight Carl Towns up in his career. Now,
Right.
granted, I thought Carl actually played a decent game
He
defensively
played it. Yeah.
overall,
Yep.
but like Carl Towns doesn't offer the Hawks. Maybe they were seeing like Town what Jokic had did the previous game, and they were equating that to Towns, but like Towns is a different player, and the Hawks aren't really that bothered by his driving ability. They're really and they're comfortable closing out on him and then following him on the drives. Uh, and his post like he doesn't have a post up advantage over a Conklin and Capela. So like I just think I think the markets kind of undersold the Hawks there a lot. But like this game is going to be a lot. I think this game has a chance to be a coin flip just because of the difference in Middleton. But the last time these two teams played, like the Bucks were playing good basketball, and the Hawks absolutely just destroyed them on a. It felt like on a like, you guys don't have the pieces to match up to us. The second, it's going to come down to how much can Brook Lopez stay on the floor because if the Hawks can get Brook off the floor, I think defensively the Bucks are in massive trouble. Uh, not just rim protection, but also just rebounding as well.
Yeah, and to just to back up 1 second, like when I said I was surprised by the Knicks being favored, I wasn't surprised by the Knicks being favored to beat the Hawks. I was surprised by the Knicks being the favorite out of the 8 teams. Like
Oh,
I was like, why is it not Oklahoma City? Why is it not Dallas? Like, I mean, if you gave me like my pick of the 8 teams to win, I don't think I would have had the Knicks in the top half. Like I didn't see them as number one of 8. Now I get that they were favored against the Hawks and Orlando isn't necessarily a huge threat and maybe not Milwaukee either, but I didn't see them as the clear favorite in the East and I didn't see
I'm
them as somebody who was a real threat to the teams in the West.
well. I think overall, I think it's just because they see the three other like there's no
Yeah.
Cavaliers and there's
Yeah.
no Boston,
Right.
so they're like, okay, so of the two of the best teams in the basketball right now and two of the best teams in the East aren't in the tournament. Knicks have, like I said, they have a good point differential, and they've been blowing a lot of teams out. Like I understand, like overall, maybe Knicks fans are frustrated. I think Knicks Hawks are a bad matchup for them. But like, overall in the season, Knicks are playing some good basketball,
Yeah.
even with their deficiencies that we know about. They have no bench, and they're really lacking in ball creation outside of Jalen Brunson, or I mean shot creation. Apologies, but at the same time, you look at the other Eastern Conference teams. You got a Bucks team; they're playing a lot better. They had a slow start. Their defense just hasn't been the same since they got Dame Lillard. You got the Hawks team. The Hawks team are kind of a big enigma just because they're playing a different style of basketball. Trey has the lowest usage of his career. Uh, and Trey's also not shooting that well, and he's the name brand. And the Magic have injuries, so they're like, okay, the Knicks are going to be favored to come out the East, whereas the Western Conference, it's just like while the Thunder have been, you know, incredible. The Rockets have been great too. The Warriors have been good, and they have Steph Curry, and then you got the Mavericks, who they've also been really good. So it
Yeah.
was just like I think they're just doing like, okay, who has the easier way to get to the finals, less than they're the best team out of the four or out of the eight to make it to the
Yeah.
Emirates Cup.
Yeah. I agree with that, but I still I wouldn't. Um anything else you want to throw out there for this one? I
You
have one
know,
if you don't.
I kind of want to hit on the Nuggets point because I'm glad you brought that up because and I do think it is concerning. Now, we're 20 some odd games into the season, and I feel like if there's one injury to one of these rotation players, the Hawks are in trouble because their deep bench has been really like there's a difference between not being good and being like really bad. And I feel like Garrison Matthews, his play this season just hasn't been good enough. And part of that is just the lineups that he's playing with aren't viable anymore. Quinn's kind of just plugging him in as the Bogey replacement, but Bogey's got like 3 inches and 15 pounds, so and so like that shows up on the defensive side of the floor, and the Hawks are
Right.
really struggling when Garrison Matthews is in the game to get stops and to sustain stops. Meanwhile, if they're missing one of Hunter or Bogey, like their shooting issues really rear their head. And so, like to me, I'm wondering if the Hawks don't look combined with they have no real backup for Jalen Johnson. There is no
That's
backup
the
power
one.
forward on the team. That I
They,
mean
they
that's the big but that's like that's like the obvious one where it's like Jalen's not playing tonight. We have no chance. That's been true for like 2 years now, and so I really think you're looking at this Hawks roster. I like Nance. I like what he's bringing off the floor. As a leader. But he's not really holding his end of the bargain when he's asked to step up. Uh, Especially, granted, he's not a power forward anymore. That's kind of the issue. And so, like to me, I'm like, okay, power forward position, they got to try something different. If that means pulling Mo Gay, out of the G League and seeing what he has, because just to give them a different look, because like they can it's fine. Like not having a good backup for Jalen is fine when Jalen is playing. Because Jalen's just going to play 36 minutes. You got a DeAndre Hunter. You can piecemeal it together
oh
with
yeah.
your lineups for it to not hurt you.
Right.
But when Jalen's like not in the game, they've got to find a better plan than what they've done. And so whether that's either trying Mogay or Barlow or going into the trade market and looking for backup power forward options. But I also do feel pretty strongly that they also need to look at upgrading David Roddy, Cody Zeller, even Garrison Matthews, who I like, and I think there's a role for him in the league. But I just think the context of this Hawks team has changed to where they need more defense from the position he's being asked to play. If unless either Garrison Matthews needs to be in a better context within the Hawks where it's like Quinn just has to understand he can only play him next to Trey when Capela and Jalen are on the floor with him. And if those options aren't there, like if those three got like it has to be Trey, Jalen, and Capela. And like that's it with Garrison Matthews, but that limits what you can do with the rest of your roster. So like I do think the organization, the front office needs to be proactive in looking for alternatives to upgrade that deep bench option because it shouldn't be the Hawks like against the Nuggets. The Hawks couldn't score, and the Nuggets aren't some great defensive team right
Yeah.
now. And so like, but they had no shooting, and then defensively, like they had no size at the back end to compete once Capella's up the floor, or Capella and Okongwu were both up the floor guarding Jokic. So they've got to figure something out. But that's more of a mac, macro issue for this Hawks team at the moment. But it's not really one when there's no injuries. But we saw this earlier this season when guys were hurt, the Hawks, like other than Pete Krejci and Kobe Buffkin, like the deeper bench guys have not held up their end of the bargain.
Yep. Yeah, and shout out to Veet. Like he's jumped back in the fray and looked pretty good. I would say like I agree with you on the Jalen Johnson thing, and I don't think they have the answer. Like I don't think it's Mo Gay. Like watching the College Park games, the offense kind of looks like they're playing with two centers. Like it's, Barlow is the one who's really playing center, and then Mo's out there in the corner, and he doesn't look terribly comfortable, and he's not taking a whole lot of shots. And they're great on defense. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of that's because Mo Gay's your power forward, and you've just got this guy who can help clean up stuff at the rim and rebound and all that. Like, it's a very good defensive team. They have good on-ball defenders, but like I don't think they have the Jalen Johnson replacement on the roster. But I would say, I like having Garrison Matthews. I think, I think he's kind of an ideal 11th, 12th player, and I'm with you on the stipulations. Like, I want him out there with Clint
With
and
better
Clint alone.
context.
I never want to see an Okongwu Matthews lineup if I can avoid it. Um,
And
but
and I
but
and I and I think to your point, like Garrison needs better context. And I think a point that we kind of hit on, like, Mo Gay offensively has been a struggle, but I think defensively he's been really good.
yeah,
I
defensively,
from
sure.
from the G League and Summer League, what I've seen from him, especially at that power forward position, you
Yeah,
can get away with
defensively,
playing. You can play, but you can get minutes out of Garrison Matthews if you have a Mo, like if Jalen can't go and Bogey can't go. Like if it's the Nuggets game again, I would like to see Mo Gay instead of Larry Nance because the offense is going to be the same.
yeah,
The
that's
offense is
right.
going to be bad, but we
Yep.
gotta we gotta set a better foundation defensively, give us a chance, and you can then get some shooting with Garrison Matthews, and that's where my bigger point is. Like, okay, Quinn, you have to make better decisions with your rotations when your guys are out. Like, you can't just be like, okay, I'm one for one replacing this guy with this guy. Like, that, play Kobe and Beat together. Play the, and then get Garrison Matthews out there with Capela and another. If that means the Conway's minutes are reduced, too bad. Like, you gotta use the card that you're dealt with that night, and like because we've seen Garrison be successful on this
Yeah.
Hawks team, with these players. But like to me, I
By
just
and
think
large, that was just a terrible game for him. Like, just in basketball theory terms, like that just was not going to be a good Garrison Matthews game. And you're
yeah,
compounding it by like taking him out of rhythm. Like he's always the kind of player I think who plays better if you're playing him like a week at a time. Like if he can get 3 games and get his groove and get his rhythm, like then he's a more uh impactful player. But to just kind of have a one-off with him in that Nuggets game was just bad opponent, bad situation, just that felt hurtful. And I completely agree with you that like that's the one game where I want Mo Gay. Absolutely. Because just situationally that felt like a very good kind of Mo Gay game. But I just don't think he's, if you lose Jalen Johnson and he's gone for 3 weeks, I don't think Mo Gay is the answer.
no, he's not. But he's
But you
you
want him on
can't
the
just
roster. Yeah.
you have to try it. You
Yeah.
have to try it. You got to see if the mix in the NBA doesn't unlock something at the power forward position that's different because like you can't go we can't go with DeAndre Hunter at the power. Like, yeah, and we haven't talked and we probably need to start talking about DeAndre Hunter because like he's
I know.
playing
He's
incredible basketball. Uh
yeah.
but I a big reason why he's playing great ball is that the Hawks aren't asking him to do stuff he can't physically do. They're not
That's right.
asking him to guard the team's best offensive player,
Yeah.
which is often a guard or even the LeBron James. Like for the most part, the Hawks were like Dyson. You get LeBron when they made that comeback. We talked about
Yep.
that. They're not, but they're also not asking him to be the team's like primary power forward. He'll play some power forward minutes. Often, though, those minutes coincide with Zachary Richer being on the floor and having that additional size, length, and jumping ability to not necessarily even grab the rebounds, but just to be in the area
Yep.
to guide the ball to somebody so that the
Mhm.
Hawks can retain possession. You throw DeAndre Hunter out there at the power forward position, Bogey at small forward, Dyson at shooting guard. That's a recipe for disaster. Like you're just asking the Hawks to get ate up on the glass, and the Hawks offensively are not good enough, at least right now, are not good enough to not be a good rebounding team at all times for all 48 minutes of the game. Like they're just not good enough. So they can't afford to give away possession on the defensive end by giving up offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to add, one other thing about College Park, like so far, like the Nikola Jurisic thing is like not working. I don't know. I don't know. Like they'll have an 11-point lead. He'll come in and, play 5 minutes and it's gone. Like, and
Yeah.
he does some things well, like he can run a pick and roll with Tony Bradley and they have like good chemistry and he'll time the pick and roll pass perfectly and it'll be a dunk. But like by and large, like the defense, the defense is really problematic. Um, and just the overall vibe, like there's something about the body language, like it doesn't look right. Like he played with like a joy and a verve in summer league. Like those first couple of games, it was like, oh, okay. Like, he had, kind of like Riza Shea now. Like he just plays fiercely. He's just out there playing and competing, and it just doesn't look like that's there. I don't know if it's like situation like if they need to get Cody Zeller and fire him off to the moon so that they've got a roster spot and promote Keaton Wallace, and then there's a two-way. I don't know. I don't know what the logistics are going to be, but it just feels like they've got to take some action there, or he's just going to languish. I don't know. The numbers are like horrific and it's a very small sample, but in like 70 something minutes, they have a net rating of negative 32 points per 100
Whew.
possessions. Like,
So
and
I'm
by
only
and large, they're usually like +8. So it's like,
yeah.
the net there is almost 40. Like, it's just, yeah, like they just, for whatever the 5 or 6 games that he's played in, it's like they'll build a lead and he'll come in and poof, it's gone. Like it's just, I don't know. It doesn't look good, and so
So
maybe he'll get healthier and things will be great. And I'm just, I sounded the alarm too soon, but right now it's moderately
but
concerning.
Kevin, the biggest issue with Nico is that he doesn't have the defense that Shea has, like right now.
That's
And
right.
then offensively, he's just as rough, if not worse, like offensively. And so
He's
it's
got to
hard
learn how
for
to play
him
off the ball for one thing. Like he knows how to play
that
on the
too.
ball, but he's got to
Yeah.
learn how to play off the ball at times too. Because especially in that situation in College Park, like they've got a lot of on-ball players. So yeah, it's hard to make it work, hard to get him minutes to find a rhythm, and it's just kind of awkward. But we shall see. All
Yep.
right, so we're out of time. Go enjoy your Thursday night. I appreciate you jumping on, and good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.